always from the heart of the city, and now on demand 24/7 on the CHFI website. This is the soundtrack to Tomorrow. And I'm Don Jackson with Lovers and Other Strangers around the world on the internet. What's on your agenda for tomorrow? Big plans? Maybe something rather simple. Aung San Suu Kyi, in a speech, was quoted as saying, "It is no simple matter to decide who are the more fortunate, those to whom life gives all, or those who have to give all to life." A fulfilled life is not necessarily one constructed in accordance with one's own blueprint. It can be a glamorous collage of materials that have come unexpectedly to hand. How wonderful it is that we do not know what tomorrow will bring. Unquote. And it was C.S. Lewis who said the future, something which everyone reaches at the rate of 60 minutes an hour, whatever he does, whoever he is. Tomorrow, with Lovers and Other Strangers. From CHFI.com. Enrique, Iglesias, and Bailamos. The Bee Gees with Too Much Heaven and the Lovin' Spoonful in the middle of a daydream. Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. It was Emerson who wrote, "What lies behind us and what lies before us are tiny matters compared to what lies within us." Sue Schellenbarger, in a past issue of the Wall Street Journal, wrote, "People who live for the future take refuge in visions of a relaxed and rewarding life somewhere down the road. Call it the tomorrow trap, a kind of mirage that people chase, while in reality, burying themselves in their careers and other pursuits. Following a decade of unprecedented affluence, more of us than ever are confronting this problem. Not only are we feeling more rushed at work, but an exploding array of new media and consumer goods are also distracting us at home. We may, however, be waking up to the huge personal costs." Unquote. Schellenbarger mentions a poll released some time back by two major universities. She writes, and again I quote, 82% of U.S. respondents said they were extremely or very concerned about spending more time with family and having job flexibility to tend to their personal lives. These signs are encouraging because the biggest step towards escaping the tomorrow trap is awareness. Once you realize you're depriving yourself of emotionally rewarding experiences, you're almost there. Unquote. Lovers and Other Strangers from CHFI.com. Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. Alicia Keys, "If I Ain't Got You," and Air Supply, "All Out of Love." I don't say he's a great man. Willie Loman never made a lot of money. His name was never in the paper. He's not the finest character that ever lived. But he's a human being, and a terrible thing is happening to him. So attention must be paid. He's not to be allowed to fall into his grave like an old dog. Attention must be finally paid to such a person. An excerpt from Act 1 of Death of a Salesman by Arthur Miller, published in 1949. Sue Schellenbarger, in a past issue of the Wall Street Journal, went on to write, and again I quote, "As the work and family columnist for the Wall Street Journal, I have seen inspiring examples of how some people beat the trap. From dramatic decisions like quitting their jobs to more modest approaches, such as drawing firmer boundaries around work or just scheduling downtime. I also know that you should not wait for utter exhaustion, an illness, or a life-altering event, like the loss of a loved one, to move you to act." Unquote. Some lines later, again she writes, and I quote, "In other cases, the catalyst is emotional. Many baby boomers are entering a life stage where the deaths of loved ones and other markers of mortality are jolting them out of their old rationalizations." Unquote. Lovers and Other Strangers from CHFI.com. Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. Kelly Rowland with Unity, Tim McGraw, Live Like You Were Dying, and John Lennon, Watching the Wheels. Jim Solish, in the Chicago Tribune magazine, wrote, "Most of the really happy people I know get their hands dirty all the time. They garden or cook or refinish furniture. They touch basic materials that are closer to life than objects pre-programmed, prefabbed, pre-processed, and predisposed to minimize tactile stimulation. My father, a marketing consultant, was never happier than when he was in his woodshop, building the redwood strip canoe people always ask if they can buy when we take it out on the lake. It took him 3 years to build that canoe, with hand-caned seats and mahogany rails. It would have taken him 3 minutes to plunk down $600 for an aluminum canoe that would never need to be recaned or refinished, but that would never be rejoiced over either." Unquote. Sue Schellenbarger, in this particular past issue of the Wall Street Journal, wrote, "Why are such simple choices so difficult to make? Future-oriented thinking is deeply rooted in our culture," says Joseph Boskin, a Boston University history and urban studies professor. "The quest for the frontier, the Protestant ethic that imbues hard work with the promise of future salvation, encourages us to focus on future rewards. Living in the future can also be emotionally seductive." In a 3-year study of employees at a big manufacturing company, sociologists Arlie Hochschild, author of The Time Bind, found that people can gain powerful emotional satisfaction from constructing fantasies of a future life, even when they never live it. In her study, a 55-year-old engineer went so far as to purchase a tent, sleeping bags, a map, and freeze-dried food to feed his dreams of a camping trip with his 2 daughters. But the trip took shape only in his imagination. The gear gathered dust in the garage. Unquote. Lovers and Other Strangers and the Tomorrow Trap with CHFI.com. Lonestar and I'm Already There, and 5 for Fighting with the Riddle. Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. Rilke said the future enters into us in order to transform itself in us long before it happens. Sue Schellenbarger, in this particular past issue of the Wall Street Journal, went on to say, and again I quote, "The tomorrow trap is also alluring because so many of its captives see their actions as noble." Unquote. She began the article with one example. She writes, "Determined to save for retirement and his kids' education, Larry, 42, racked up as many as 400,000 kilometers a year traveling for work." Although the Minnesota sales manager won steady pay raises and promotions, he lost ground at home, missing ball games and school conferences, and leaving family issues to his wife, Kathy. Once his son said to her, "I don't really know Dad at all. He's never around." Unquote. Towards the end of her article, she writes, "And as for Larry, he became haunted by something his father said at age 77. Larry, one of the greatest things I regret is that when you kids were young, I didn't spend more time with you." Unquote. She goes on to say, baffling his boss, he, and again I quote, "turned down a big promotion, took a severance package, and time off. Slowing down wasn't easy at first, but a hiking trip to the High Sierra with his daughter helped him to reflect." Unquote. The Tomorrow Trap, tonight, with Lovers and Other Strangers, from CHFI.com. Michael Buble heading home, and Hayley sails with What You Want. Lovers and Other Strangers, from CHFI.com. Finally, it was Martin Luther, German theologian, who believed, "Even if I knew that tomorrow the world would go to pieces, I would still plant my apple tree." More tomorrow, with Lovers and Other Strangers, from CHFI.com. Good night, sweet dreams. I'm Don Jackson.